Mikey, I think we're live.
Vinnie, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, I'm live. I'm not feeling alive, but I'm alive.
Well,
Um,
I'm feeling better than I did yesterday when I was technically dead. The stomach
yeah. Well,
flu,
I know
the
what
stomach
dead
flu that's
feels
going,
like. And
the stomach flu that goes around manifests in two ways: either you barf a lot or you never barf, but you feel like you're gonna, but you never do.
I'm
Kristen had the first, and I had the second.
yeah. See, I'm kind of in that place too, where I just don't know. Some hole is going to open up at some point. I don't know which one.
So it's not the stomach flu; it's the open hole.
It's guess which hole. If you can put a guess in by the end of this show of which hole will 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 what's the word I'm looking for? Will betray me.
Well, the body's sending a message and it says we need to offload.
Yeah, I think that's what
And
I'm getting, man. I'm
you
getting
must
a
understand that this stuff must go.
yes,
Everything
you have
must go.
something,
We're
man,
blowing it. We're blowing it out to the bare walls, top of the old Daily City.
doing you no good. So we're gonna drag you into that little room and get you to offload. It's all a matter now of which way we want it to go.
If you could save some and send it to Joe Manchin, I'd sure appreciate it. I'm telling all Americans to send just a quart of waste to Joe Manchin.
I'm not so down on Joe Manchin.
Joe Manchin is so tired of being a prick that he's decided that he's going to be a real prick this time.
Well, he's 77 years old, Michael.
Well, I'll
He's
be
been doing his
77
crap
soon.
for was his second term, right? I think maybe third, but I think
But
his
in his
second.
heart, Vinny, he's done everything he can for West Virginia. In his heart, he's done.
Well, no, it's funny because I think in reading about what he says, and I don't know how much I believe it. Um, I still think, and I have a number of people that agree with me that I know that are politically astute people, that he is lying in wait if something happens to Biden.
Well, he can't beat Trump. So the only person he can screw is Biden and still not win the race. So all he's doing is making America great again.
Well, see, a lot of people do think that with the proper running mate, that he could beat Trump,
No
that
way.
he's center enough that he would be able to beat Trump. He hasn't aligned himself with the MAGA Republicans. He stayed far away. He's on that straight course. If you took a guy like that and matched him up with I don't know, a Gavin Newsom, let's say.
No way. You're dreaming. Listen, Joe Manchin is not straight away. Joe Manchin was the weight that kept the Senate from functioning. He, along with Kristen Sinema, he was the wrench in the gears, and he still is. That's all he's got going for him is detraction, destruction, and bad news. There's no salvation in Joe Manchin. He's an egoist waiting for the next load of ego. He can't be satisfied without hearing Joe Manchin's a wonderful guy. Joe Manchin should be my president. Joe Manchin's my leader. He can't even win in his home state. That's why he's running for it like this. That's why he's running for the exits.
Well, I know that he's going to have trouble running up against Jim Justice because it's a state that has swung uh, hugely Republican.
20 points up for Trump.
Doesn't mean you can't beat them. Just means that you got to work your ass off to beat them.
Joe's not a worker. He's a opportunist
Well, I
looking
won't
for a
say
quick
that.
win.
He is a worker. I mean, the guy. I mean, I saw his last senatorial campaign, and he was out in the streets. He was talking to people. He was on the street. I was impressed at how many times I saw him in little rat hole towns in West Virginia. He's listen. If Joe Manchin is nothing else, he knows how to campaign in that state. He's a Democrat who won 2 terms to the Senate, and before that, he was the governor.
Now he can't get a job in his home state, so he's going to go out and
No, he'll be able to get a job. It may
pee,
not be.
pee in the pure waters of the presidential race.
Well, I don't know. I don't think he's going to pee in the waters. What I do think he's going to do is if the Democrats come up to a place where they see that Biden is just not viable, and no matter how much good he's done, and no matter how much he sold this party, and how many victories they have, there may come a point in the next year where Biden is not a viable candidate.
Yeah, but Manchin has taken great care to destroy his relationship with the rest of the Senate in terms of the Democrats. He's aligning himself with the Republicans and Mitch McConnell, and vote after vote after vote to make sure that the narrow majority in the Senate was not strong enough to pass any
Well,
legislation.
he aligned himself with one vote, but he also engineered and worked with Joe Biden on engineering the passing of two other large pieces of legislation.
That's what a Democrat's supposed to do. He managed to do his job maybe 2 out of 8 times.
I'd have to go look at his record, but I don't think that it was that. I think it was 3 times.
He was dancing the do-si-do with Kirsten Sinema, if you remember. The two of them were playing cat and mouse with the truth, and they always came out. I was gonna, but I can't, so I won't. But I should have, but I won't. But I won't.
We'll see how it lays out. I just I got a funny feeling about Manchin. I could be 100% wrong. But I just think that Kamala Harris is not going to be, if something happens to Joe Biden, she's not going to be the one. No way.
Not in terms of a candidate. You're right. But
no.
Joe Manchin is no Democrat's friend, and the party will not allow him behind him. So he's going to have two enemies. He's going to have Trump as his enemy, and he's going to have the Democrats as his enemy. So he's going to have to find someone to support him along the way. And he'll probably get a retired U.S. Air Force general who's ready to bomb the world as his running mate. It'll be like George Wallace and General LeMay.
Well, I don't think it's that bad. I think that I would see a ticket of Manchin and Newsom.
Well, if Gavin Newsom wants to truly end his career, all hail Redwood High, and honor her name, then that would be the best way to do it. He could do that, or just have a sex scandal right now. A huge sex party in Sacramento would be the same way as aligning yourself with Joe Manchin. It's getting in bed with a black widow spider and saying, this time she won't bite me. I've talked to her. I've gotten her assurances. And let's be clear. I'm not doing this to win the presidency. I'm doing this for America.
Everybody's doing it for America. And nobody seems to be able to fix America. I really feel
we've got some world to fix too.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff to fix. We're in a tough place. We're in a really tough place right now. You have
you think Joe Manchin could wind down the tension between China and the United States by having a presidential meeting with Xi in Washington next week? You think Joe Manchin could pull that off? You think Gavin Newsom knows who to call in China?
Just as good as anybody else on the ticket.
Anybody else? Joe Manchin is as good as anybody else?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that Manchin would be name me somebody who you would look at and say, go over there and fix this.
I would send the Secretary of State, Blinken.
He's obviously going to be involved in it.
And able to do it.
And he would probably continue to be the Secretary of State.
It's hard to figure out who could be more effective with the Israelis right now than Joe Biden and Blinken. Because as of yesterday, they weren't going to do anything. Then they came up with a 4-hour stop. Then they came up with a 3-hour notification. And now they're going to have a full ceasefire or pause in the hostilities. And those developments, 2 days ago, the spokesman for the IDF was saying, let's be clear. And you know what that means when a government spokesman says, let's be clear. Now I'm going to lie to you. It's not personal; it's business.
Well, the people here in the United States are getting kind of not
Restless.
exactly approving of what's going on in Israel. There are so many people who are saying, um,
What's the difference? What's the difference with these hostilities?
we got to stop these people from, I mean, they've killed so many civilians, um, that at some point here, you can't keep bombing hospitals. You can't keep bombing. No matter how much care you're taking, you're still taking lives.
And Vinny,
And
Netanyahu
it's
brought
going
this
to
on
come a point
himself.
where you can't do that anymore.
You're right. And Netanyahu did not have the full backing of the despite what Biden said, the American people had already seen enough of Netanyahu to know that he was a man of war and not a man of peace, and was never going to negotiate a peace. It's been a couple of days now. No one has said we're going to wipe them off the map, but that's what they said they were going to do. We're going to fight them until there is no Hamas. Well, that means you're going to fight until there is no Gaza. It's just one big pile of rubble from one end to the other, from the river to the sea, as they say.
A lot of people talk about a lot of things, Michael, but what reality is a whole different story. We all want to, when somebody attacks our country or somebody attacks our family or something like that, we want to take immediate revenge. We want to go out there and shoot them. We want to go
That's
out
right.
there and beat them up. We want to go out there and destroy them.
That's right.
And that's the feeling that Netanyahu and his buddies had after that heinous massacre. But then the reality sets in is that these are terrorists, and they're called terrorists because they terrorize not only your people, but they terrorize their own people. And you have to make some tough decisions. How much of these people can you get? Can you destroy them completely?
You can.
You're not going to destroy them completely. Just as anybody who thinks ISIS is destroyed completely, or you may knock them down, you may cut the head off the snake, you may get the head guy, you may destroy every tunnel within 10 miles of the border. But at some point, you got to say we did
We're
what we
done.
came to do.
And the interesting thing about the population of Gaza, and we've all heard this, is that half of the people who are there are under 19. That means they're all radicalized already. They're teenagers. They've seen their world come apart. They've seen who did it. They don't blame Hamas. They blame Israel, and they're the next line of defense. They're the next guys. And these aren't trained warriors. All you have to do is be able to make a bomb, put together a rocket, learn how easily. You're 16 years old. You can learn that quickly. And now
Sure.
you're the new Hamas.
Yeah, it doesn't. The only way that this is ever going to get settled is not by rockets and killing people. It's going to get settled when they sit down at a table and they say, we can manage by living here, and we can manage by living here, and let's try it for 5 years without shooting each other up and see what happens.
That's the good news. The bad news is we have to live next to each other in three different places. There's Israel, there's the West Bank, and then there's Gaza. Completely unconnected. We want one to rule the other, and you can't even drive from one to the other.
Well, maybe that's the idea, is you ought to put up some kind of highway that'll go from one or the other.
Highway 66A.
Yeah. Spolpaki would be happy to help you with that. They're,
Spolpaki is building 66As all over Africa, the Far East. They just can't get one in Spolpakia.
I mean, I truly think that that's what you're presented with here. And I know I'm oversimplistic on it, that there's much more that goes into it. But for cripe's sake, man, I mean, you gotta do something. You can't keep things going like this. You're gonna wipe out. I mean, you're genociding these people.
If you say it's time for peace and you guys have to live next door to one another, both sides say, yes, it's time for peace, but no, we're not going to live next to the Israelis. Nope, we're not living next to the Palestinians. Nope, we're not doing that.
Well, give them North Dakota.
We'll agree. We'll agree. You know, they can have North Dakota, but is it going to be half Israeli and half Palestinian?
No, you get the Palestinians in North Dakota, and you get the Israelis. You give them Israel.
And what happens to the West Bank and the Gaza Strip? Turn them into rubble museums.
We figure out something for them.
Make it a beach community, a planned beach community. It's going to be called Laguna Beach East.
You have to get.
But let's be clear.
Yeah, you have to get these people away from each other. Or you have to get a commitment that they're going to reside in peace.
That's why Egypt won't let them in. That's why they won't open the Rafah gate. They said, we've seen what happens when these two people get the Palestinians are going to run through the Rafah gate. The Israelis are going to run after them. And now we're in the war. Nope, we've done that.
Yeah, I think it's sickening. And I think that
it's the perfect storm.
Well, they're going to light the world on fire if they keep going the way they're going.
I think people are pretty hesitant to get involved because the one thing that we have forgotten in the personalizing of this war that began with all the atrocities is that everything from the Middle East is Meshuggah. Nothing works, nothing functions, nobody's in the right state of mind. There is no peace. It's just war waiting to happen. Who's your favorite? You want Saudi Arabia going? They hate it. They hate Iran as much as anybody. Not based on their political motives or background, based on their religious, the Wasabis and the Shiites.
Yeah, that's the problem. You have so many different factions over there.
Waiting to go now.
It's tribal. Right. It's like the guys from 125th Street don't like the guys from 116th Street. The guys from 116th Street don't like the guys from 118th Street.
You know, I was on a murder trial as a juror, and we're not supposed to talk about these things, but I believe I can, several years ago. And it had to do with the gangs of LA. The gangs in LA don't even have one block to themselves. 77th Street gang does not even cover all of 77th Street because at 78th and 79th, two different gangs. You can't leave your block because if you stray from your block to the next block on your way to the store, that's another gang's territory. Not a citywide, not a countywide. One block is all they get. And so who do they get to fight? They get to fight the guys in the next block. You don't even meet the gang from 2 blocks away. That's just rumors. You never get that far. You've never been there. You can't go there. And they can't come to you, but you know they're there. You're 77, they're 79.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, hell would want to live in that crap.
Time to take your vitamins, Vin.
Yeah, I feel like it, man.
I feel sorry for you.
I'm fading. I'm not doing too well today.
Well, I'll mention one other. By the way, have the Mariners made any moves this year? Off-season moves yet?
Yeah, they made a couple of minor trades. They one guy got claimed on waivers. Two guys got brought to the club on waivers. But a couple of things. I guess they're gearing up for their pitch to Ohtani. So they're looking
the Angels, I think, have already figured out that he's gone. Typical of the Angels to come to such a shining conclusion so late in the game. They hired a new manager who's not going to be whose first job is to rebuild the team. Giants have got a nice start going. They have a manager, but he has no one to manage. So this is going to be a very interesting offseason for them.
Who did the Giants hire?
Bob Melvin.
Right, yes. So, and our old buddy Ron Washington is going to run the Angels.
Yeah, they got a veteran. Now, if they just had a veteran team.
He's a good guy, Ron Washington. I know he's had some troubles in the past, but
I thought of someone that you were really, really fond of. We both were. Dave Henderson was in the last night's episode of baseball, playing for the Red Sox with his home run. Oh yeah, his distinctive throwing style, his distinctive way of controlling his body. It was just great to see him do.
Yeah, God rest his soul, man. That's a guy that was taken much too young. A couple of years ago, I was driving on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and for some reason, which is still not known to me, I pulled over and decided to get out of the car and just look because it was just such a beautiful spot.
Yeah.
And it was gorgeous, man. And I turn around and I look at the other side of the car, and it was milepost number 42.
Whoa.
Which was Henderson's number. And this is just after we lost him. And I just remembered it. Wow. This must be what he must be looking at. That was a sign, you know?
Interesting. He wore number 40 for the Red Sox and was so instrumental in many of their exciting season disappointments. Hot finish, big disappointment.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he could never help get the Red Sox. The Red Sox were so cursed at that time that he could never get them.
Nobody could.
To where they needed to go.
Yastrzemski couldn't. Spaceman Bill Lee couldn't.
Nope.
They all made their try. And Bill Buckner couldn't.
Yeah.
I saw that play again last night, and I just wondered, what the hell was he doing out there? Why, with everything on the line, would you have someone who playing first base who can't even run? Why did they do that? There had to be a kid on the bench who could play first base.
I guess. I've always heard it explained that they wanted him on the field for the win.
Well,
that they were so confident, as was everybody else in the place. Let's face it.
The networks had already set up their cameras in the Red Sox dressing
room.
Oh,
yeah. They had already given out the MVP award to Marty Barrett.
They didn't ask Kevin Mitchell what he had in mind. They didn't ask him.
No, they were much more. They were just interested in giving it to the Red Sox because of the story that it made, sure. And getting out of New York.
Right.
And it's always a great thing when you change plans of people like that.
That's the great thing about sport. It ain't over till it's over.
In the field where, good God, the field where Yogi Berra played.
Yep.
Proved it to him. Mikey, I got to run.
Let's do it. Feel better, Vinnie.
All right, I'll see you on Monday.
We love you. Get well.
Love you, pal. I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.